Welcome to Some Stutter Law, a podcast by the Communication Collaborative. Some Stutter Law is Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about living with communication disorders. We speak directly to people living with speech and language disorders and others such as speech-language pathologists, researchers, educators, family members, and allies. We use inclusive language and themes to help rebuild confidence and hope by dismantling myths, stigma, stereotypes, and barriers. My name is Greg O'Grady, and I'm a person who stutters and host of Some Stutter Law. Some Stutter Law mission is dismantling and rebuilding communication disorders. Let's start listening. Some Stutter Law mandate is in the spirit of Newfoundland and Labrador's humor, robust and frank interactive discussions. Some Stutter Law podcast aims to rebuild confidence and hope for people who live with communication disorders by dismantling myths, stigmas, stereotypes, and barriers. Some Stutter Law podcast objectives are raising awareness, education, understanding, and acceptance of communication disorders by providing support, current information, research, and resources. Raising awareness that communication disorders can impact a person's life emotionally, educationally, physically, socially, and vocationally. Creating a safe space where guests can be themselves without fear of being judged. Today we are having a special episode of Some Stutter Law. We have members of our Some Stutter Law production team with us. They will be providing our listening audience with updates about their exciting projects and initiatives that they have been working on through the Communication Collaborative. We have Dr. Paul De Decker, Associate Professor of Linguistics at MUN, Luca Dinu, third year undergraduate MUN student, who's also in the background, and Laura Tuck, a soon-to-be speech-language pathologist. Before I invite them to provide us with their updates, Some Stutter Law is saddened to announce the departure of Some Stutter Law co-hosts Caitlin Mayo and Melody Crane, a member of the Some Stutter Law production team. Although disheartening news to share, Caitlin and Melody's departure is understandable. Despite their best efforts to balance Some Stutter Law, the heavy demands of an academic workload, and other personal commitments, time does not permit them to continue with Some Stutter Law. Caitlin's and Melody's invaluable contributions has helped Some Stutter Law become a recognizable educational and resource platform for advocating and supporting marginalized and underrepresented communities with communication challenges in Newfoundland and Labrador. Please join us in thanking Caitlin and Melody for their time with Some Stutter Law and to wish them much success with their studies. Thank you for your continued support. Now, moving onwards, I now invite the Some Stutter Law production team to share their projects and initiatives updates. So we'll start with Laura.
Sure. So right now I'm involved with Dr. De Decker, on an open educational resource project called The Science of Stuttering, which is an online virtual learning opportunity for undergraduate students and other learners who are interested in communication disorders like fluency disorders. So they have the opportunity to go through learning modules and learn about the history of stuttering and different treatment types. And the portion of the project that I've been working on specifically has been a bit of a branching scenario game. So that includes kind of multiple choice options where learners get to go through a mock assessment between an SLP and a client who stutters. So we give people options after watching clips to decide which way they're going to conduct their assessment session. And it's loosely follows the structure of what a real-life assessment session might look like for somebody who has a fluency disorder. And then in addition to that, we were working on some video interviews which highlight the personal experiences of people who stutter. So we had two wonderful interviewees, one of them being Greg O'Grady, and the other being Brent Foote, who is another person who stutters. And they very graciously shared some of their personal experiences with us so that when they're going through these e-learning modules, students can kind of hear directly from people who have real life experience with this type of communication disorder and really learn about the ins and outs and all dimensions of the disorder.
I'm particularly interested in the branching scenario game.
Yes.
It's like a choose your own adventure game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Video.
So there's going to be a video clip, and then you kind of take note of whatever is happening, and you have three options to decide from where you're going to take the game. And depending on which option you choose, you get a different video response, and the game continues from there. So it's a really interactive way of kind of diving into the idea of an assessment session.
Mm-hmm. And we should also note that we received funding from the Canadian Association of University Librarians to make this open educational resource. So thank you to them. And we started it seems like over a year ago or a long time ago. But I was looking at what we're doing and what we have to do, and we're still on schedule. I was surprised by that. So the good news is that everything that we said we were going to do with this project we've done so far, and the stuff that we have to do is still on track and on schedule. So I think the whole thing should wind up being finished, if I remember correctly, by the end of the summer. So
yeah. So everyone should keep their eyes peeled.
Yeah, we'll post links to it on the on our Some Stutter Love page, and we'll maybe we can do a sample. Maybe we can do a future podcast of where we check out the open educational resource and follow through on the choose your own adventure branching scenario part of things, and look at the other educational features that are part of it.
And the next thing, Paul, I think you're going to talk about Stigmatized. The
which?
The Stigmatized Identity Project.
Right.
Thanks to Asha.
Yeah. So another project that we're engaged in, which is almost the first stage of it is almost finished, is the Stigmatized Identity Project. And so we have a graduate student who was funded through grad swept funding through Memorial University, who's analyzing the interviews at the moment. So this is Ash, and he's been working on that since September, so about 6 months now. And he is looking at the interviews, analyzing the interviews thematically for what people say about people who stutter, who have issues with identifying as a person who stutters. So sometimes, as Greg's talked about a number of times on the show here, about covert and overt stuttering. So oftentimes people choose to or choose to present themselves covertly as a stutterer, which I guess means avoiding social situations, avoiding certain types of scenarios where they may have to speak in more often than they're comfortable with. So these are some of the topics that we're looking at in these interviews. And so all the interviews that we've done with the podcast in season 1, Ash has been going through and listening for reoccurring themes that people that our guests have been talking about. And of course, these can come from people who stutter themselves, but there's also been guests who have been speech language pathologists or researchers on stuttering who can give us further insight in terms of how stuttering and identity and how stuttering and identity work together. So we have report that Ash is making that should be ready by the end of the month, at the end of March here. So we can also share some of that information on our webpage as well. We're going to be doing a lot of sharing, which is good.
Do you want to talk about Finding Bob documentary as well, Paul? Well,
the Finding Bob documentary, we did a pilot teaser. I think I've called it in the past, which is a way of presenting a proof of concept for a future documentary film. And the idea behind this film is it's about finding the right therapist, as Greg has pointed out. So what we've done is we've interviewed different speech language pathologists, clients of speech language pathologists, to kind of get a sense of what it means to them to find a therapist that they work well together, and where the people feel like they've been improving and made some kind of changes over their therapy. And Bob of the title is Bob Kroll, who was Greg's speech language pathologist back in the day. And so he had passed away. This was last year now, wasn't it, Greg? Was it March last year?
It was March 17th of last year.
Yeah. So about a year ago now. And so we interviewed his colleagues, some of his colleagues from the Stuttering Institute in Toronto, and his wife, his son, his friends, people that knew him as a professor at the University of Toronto. And the idea was just kind of get a sense of who Bob was, because anybody who's met Bob and worked with Bob have said that he's made significant impact and change in their lives. So we wanted to figure out who Bob was and how people can, or how he has impacted people in therapeutic domains. So the clients that he's worked with, the people that he's helped over the course of his career, and from that we hope we can do more work with it. So there's a short out now that we finished for the Canadian Stuttering Association annual conference, which was back in October now, I think. October 2021.
Oh, yeah.
And we premiered the trailer there. Greg was there at the release of that, and he tells us that it was well received. So I'm happy to hear that. And we've been kind of, that's been on the back burner for the last few months, and we've been thinking like, okay, we need to pick this up again. And so we recently got back in touch with Noam Kroll, Bob Kroll's son, who's a filmmaker in Los Angeles. And so we're going to meet with him again next week to kind of talk about where we might take the next step in terms of turning it from a short teaser trailer into maybe a short documentary or even a longer form documentary. So I'm excited to see where this goes next, Greg.
Mm-hmm. And the short film project, Paul, Melasapa?
Right. There's so many new projects on the horizon, and being the communication collaborative, one of our goals is to produce these documentary medias to communicate the findings of research on communication challenges and the lived experiences of those who live with communication challenges. So this one here is a project that's been funded by the Office for Public Engagement, an accelerator grant at Memorial University, and the Smallwood Foundation. So funding from those two sources has allowed us to partner with a professional filmmaker, Christopher Richardson, a Newfoundland and Labrador filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, who's done a number of land and sea episodes and a number of his own documentaries as well. He's going to be working with us to help train undergraduate students on how to use their iPhones and cell phones for shooting short documentary films. And the idea is to partner an undergraduate student with a person with a communication challenge somewhere in the province, in Newfoundland or Labrador, and we're looking for people who stutter or people who have other forms of communication barriers, and we're working with NALASAPA to identify people who might be interested in filming a part of their experience. So that we'll start working on that as in the spring, as spring turns into summer and classes finish up at MUN. We'll be looking for students to travel through Newfoundland and work with speech language pathologists in different regions and their clients. So I'll put some more information about that on our website too. And there's a few students at MUN that I think will be able to work with who might be interested in the project. So they'll receive some money for traveling and a stipend for their time. And people who get involved will also receive a stipend for their contribution and collaboration as well. So if anyone's interested in that, they can contact us at the Some Stutter webpage. We have information about there, how to get in touch with us. And but for the most part, we'll be working with Chantel at NALASAPA, and hopefully we'll be able to find some new speakers that we haven't spoken to yet.
And Luca's USIP project proposal.
So earlier this semester, I applied to the USIP program at MUN, which is the University Summer Student Internship Program. And the project that I applied for funding for is a project for creating an OER, an open educational resource, to show students how to create, how to use video and audio editing software and various types of publishing platforms in order to disseminate the results of their research. And to do so while following principles of accessibility, so that the videos that they create end up being accessible to people who are hard of hearing or who have vision problems. And the goal is that at the end of the OER, after they have completed the content of the OER and they know how to present the results of their research in a video format, then they will use the knowledge that they have learned as part of the OER to take on a social project of some sort, and they will do research into a social problem, and then they will present the results of their research on that social problem using the techniques that they've learned as part of the course. So they'll present the research in video format or multimedia format.
And Paul's tile project proposal.
So as you can see, there's a theme going on here, and all of these projects are connected in some way. So Laura starting off talking about the open educational resource for about stuttering and the science and social science of stuttering, and now Luca's project on developing documentary video essays for students and for students to learn the techniques of media production as part of their undergraduate learning. So I should mention that Laura's Laura was initially involved with the collaborative through a undergraduate summer student internship grant. And so that's how we were able to put together the Getting the Words Out documentary, the first short documentary we made a couple of years ago. So this is the same fund that Luca is applying to for producing this OER on developing media production skills. So what I've done is then put together a proposal, and this is still being in the consideration stage, so we haven't heard of whether it's funded yet. But to give an avenue for Luca's digital video essay OER for it to be used in my classes, or one class in particular, my sociolinguistics 3000 level class at Memorial University, where we talk about the relationship between language and society, and language and culture. So what I hope to do is, if this is funded, or even if it's not funded, hopefully I can find time to put together new course assignments for the sociolinguistics class that will involve students working with community members in and around the province on the particular topic of communication challenges or communication differences. And like the summer project that we'll be working with Christopher Richardson, students will document their relationships and collaboration with people who stutter, people with other types of communication challenges, and that will be done for credit as part of my part of the undergraduate class. So a lot of this is kind of very, very new to all of us, and we're kind of trying to figure out the details of how this will all work. And so the fund, the TILE Fund, which stands for Teaching, Innovation, and Learning Enhancement, provides money for this type of thing to introduce new and innovative ideas into undergraduate teaching curriculum. So with fingers crossed on that one. We should hear back in, I think, sometime in April about whether that gets funded. And if it gets funded, we'll be able to move full steam ahead. But I think the problem is going to be keeping all these projects apart from each other. They all blend in together, but they're all blending in together for a good reason. Because I do feel that the power of media for communicating our concerns on social issues is a significant way to do that. And Newfoundland and Labrador has a history of producing documentary films for social change. The Fogo Island films that were done in the 60s and 70s. There's a long history of success there, but the general idea of it is that filmmaker was invited in through the National Film Board and through Memorial University to speak to people on Fogo Island. And this is a time when people living on Fogo Island weren't sure what was going to happen with their fishery. And so the film was able to capture a lot of the social relationships people had in the community, and the concerns that they had about their community and the future of their communities as well. And they ended up developing what's the word escapes me now, a fishing co-op for managing the fishing and economy on the island. So, not that I have anything as grand, but I do believe that the power of media can be used for sharing the lived experiences of those who face communication challenges, and those who are involved in helping provide solutions. So that's the whole idea behind the Communication Collaborative, and I think we have a lot of great people working on these projects, and we're ready to get our feet more than wet. Well, we're more than wet. We're getting our feet right into the middle of the pond at this point. So I'm very excited about all this.
And now, Paul, the video episodes, and thanks to Frederica.
Well, we met with Frederica Bresson, who is a podcaster. And Luca, where is she located? I couldn't tell where she was when we met with her, but I know she's been around all over the place producing her podcast called Technoculture.
I'm actually not sure where she is right now, but I do know that at one point, for at least a lot of the episodes that she did on Technoculture, she was based in Ghent, Belgium.
Okay. I'll be in Ghent in the summer. I have a conference in Ghent in the summer. But we met with her because we decided to take a new step here at Some Stutter La and produce video versions of our podcast. And so we wanted to meet with somebody who has done something similar in their own work, and Frederica was just the right person to talk about her workflow and how she works, how she records video with her guests, how she edits video, how she distributes her podcast and video version of the podcast. So I think we picked up some good tips from her, and that's what we're looking forward to in season 3, where we'll have more, hopefully more polished versions of our video version of Some Stutter La so that we can share with people.
Okay, and Some Stutter La new logo with the puffin.
So yeah, I like that we have. I guess is it a new logo? I guess it is a new logo in some ways. Yeah, we've introduced an animal into the Some Stutter La identity. So the puffin, it's a puffin facing a microphone, talking into a microphone, and what can I say? The puffin is one of the iconic symbols of Newfoundland and Labrador. So it has a puffin talking into a microphone, which might represent Newfoundlanders talking, and particularly those who normally don't get to talk, I suppose. We often don't think of puffins. Maybe we don't even know what a puffin sounds like. We should find the sound of a puffin. And to be honest, I've looked this up and I found what they sound like, and it's not what you would think. So maybe in season 3 we can start off with introducing the sound of a puffin. So just a teaser there. You have to come back in a few months for season 3, episode 1.
Sounds great. And the Some Stutter La first anniversary celebration.
You want me to do that too? I'm doing all the talking today. Holy cow. Greg, you've totally given me the hosting responsibilities in this one. What's this one about? This is the new anniversary, right?
The first anniversary.
We've been doing this. We're old pros at this by now. We've been doing this for a year starting, I think, next week on the 17th.
Yeah, it really is amazing how quickly time has flown, team, because we actually started the Some Stutter La in February of last year, and we had our first guest on the first official guest on March the 21st. So as of March 21st, Some Stutter La will be celebrating its first anniversary.
And here's a quiz for our listeners. Who was the first guest?
I know.
I don't even know. Do I know?
Not saying.
So if you remember the first guest, send us an email. I keep saying get in touch with us, but I don't even know if we have an email. I think we do, and I think it's info@somestutterla.ca. And now I say that without knowing whether I've set it up properly. So send us an email, and if we get it, we'll know that the email is set up.
And as you know, help us celebrate some Stutter Law's first anniversary. We've asked guests, previous guests to send in a little, just a few words to talk about, their experiences being on some sort of law, because most of our guests, this was their first time, and so we'd like to hear them share their own personal stories about this experience, because for a person who stutters especially, this is a huge step. It's a huge step, and because they're really stepping out of their comfort zone. And the guest has options to either to send us an email and or to do a short video just to share their personal experiences. And within the next few weeks now, we will be posting these videos and their testimonials on social media.
Yeah.
So a special thank you to those guests who who will be sharing their experiences.
And I think we have them up on our a number of them on the Instagram page already. So people
You're
can check
right.
them out.
Some of them have been posted. You're right. Thanks for reminding me, Paul. Yeah.
And I think we have one from Laura too.
Yes, you do. It's posted, I think.
So I think that might yours
Thank you,
might have been
Laura.
one of the first
I'm a
ones to go
prompt
up.
replier.
The early bird gets the worm, right?
Well yeah. It's amazing all of the positive feedback we have received from our guests. So thank you very
The
much.
early puffin gets the mic.
That's good, Luca.
There you go.
That's cute. I like that. And the last thing is about the discussions about a potential workshop. We've actually talked about doing a workshop, some Stutter Law first workshop, and then we're looking towards the end of this year, in the fall perhaps. Do you want to say a few words about that, Paul, at all?
Yeah, you may have to help me out with that. I think we talked about this as a kind of a live. Was it a live recording of the podcast? Yeah, and
we would show a documentary. We show a film. We would have a panel for a question and answer afterwards, and or else we actually may do an actual conference with the theme.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are all part of our discussions at the moment, but we haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
But this would be a first for some Stutter Law.
And that would tie in nicely with the projects that I'll be working on with my students, who will the short videos that they produce will be premiered to be shown online with or shown at a hybrid meeting, a festival. Let's say we can call it a little film festival to showcase these short films. But we can tie that in with the podcast as well.
Definitely. And we're also talking about we're also talking about the possibility of making application to make some Stutter Law a not-for-profit association.
Yeah, so maybe you'll have to fill us in on that, as you have some experience in that with the NLSA, the Newfoundland and Labrador Stuttering Association.
Well, one of the one of the reasons why we're thinking about this is because we're always looking for grants, and it is a challenge to obtain a grant when you're not a not-for-profit association. So this would be a sort of an avenue for us to apply for grants, and also if some Stutter Law wants to expand more as well, and some of the grant money we could also sort of set up a bursary of some sort for people living with communication disorders, and so it's mainly just to try to expand our outreach.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me, and if it means we can get more money, then sign us up.
Yeah. So thank you, Paul, Laura, and Luca, for providing us with your updates on the various exciting projects and initiatives. So thank you very much. Now, despite despite a successful season 2, Some Stutter Law will be on break from the last week of March until the end of April. Season 3 of Some Stutter Law will be premiering in May. While on break, the Some Stutter Law production team will be recruiting, pre-recording new guests, researching, planning, and preparing topics for discussion, which are near and dear to our listeners' hearts, with some new surprises. However, which I question this, and I shouldn't be saying this, but during this period, Some Stutter Law production team themselves will try to squeeze in some well-deserved rest and relaxation. So we have our fingers crossed.
That's the theory anyway, right?
So that's the theory. So stay tuned for an exciting season 3 of Some Stutter Law. We'll be back for season 3 in May. Until then, stay healthy and safe.